everybody, and welcome to the monthly Oracle Wisdom. For those of you joining me for the first time, my name is Natalie Sadie, and I do a weekly Oracle Wisdom as well as a monthly. With the monthly, it's a little bit different to how I do the weekly Oracle Wisdom in that we do pick a pile for the month. So I'm going to show you a couple of crystals and you can decide which one resonates with you, and then that will be your reading. If all of them resonate or you can't decide, watch them all. There might be messages for you in each and every one of those piles. Just before I get started, in case you haven't already seen it, Anne and I just finished recording a very short time ago a episode of Gemini Rising with Amanda Ellis, and the conversation was amazing. I could talk to that woman for so many hours. It was a really great conversation about how she realized she could channel the fact that she works with Archangel Metatron and Jesus. We channeled Princess Diana. We talked about this current state of the world and the ascension to the 5D world. So I will make sure the link for that is attached below. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's amazing. And with that, we will get into our reading for the month of March. So pile number one, we've got the blue goldstone. Pile number two is one of my favorites, my Labradorite owl. Oh, there we go. We're seeing the flash. If you've watched the monthly readings before, you know that this is one of my favorites, and I love when we get to see the flash on his belly. And then finally, pile number three, we have some clear quartz. So take a moment, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and see if there's one crystal that jumps out to you, just that little bit more than the others. And with that, we are going to get started with pile number one, which is the blue goldstone. Okay, so pile number one is the blue goldstone. And as I explain every time I do this, even though I deal the cards or I pull the cards before we get started, I never look at them ahead of time. So I'm seeing them at the same time that you are. The first deck that I'm pulling from is Future Higher Self Oracle. And the card number one is there's a path you're meant to be on. Trust it. I laugh that this card comes up first because if you have watched the Amanda Ellis show with Gemini Rising, she talks about her range of aura sprays and the work that went into creating them. And the fact that she was on this path and she was on this journey and things weren't really working in the way that she'd hoped, but she knew she needed to keep going and doing this work. And this is what she was meant to be doing. And she had to trust it. And ultimately, she's been incredibly successful, and she distributes her aura sprays throughout the world. She's teaching classes now. And it just shows that when you feel a calling and when you know at a cellular level that you are meant to be doing something, you have to trust that. And we always hear about in the news and in magazines and even on podcasts, we hear about this overnight success that has just sort of popped up out of nowhere. But if you ever listen to these people's stories, you realize that there is years and years of work generally behind them, unless they're, a viral sensation, because, I'm thinking of the Haktua girl where she answered a question and it instantly went viral, and that was her claim to fame. But for most people, most actors that come out in this starring role, they were working for so long and might have gotten small parts but never gotten their big break. I'm thinking of Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek. She was ready to give it all up, and she went in and did this reading for Schitt's Creek, but really was ready to walk away from everything and ended up getting this role, and it changed her life. So when you are called to do something and when you are meant to be doing it, you have to listen to that call. and you have to keep going and you have to trust the universe. And it can be really difficult at times, especially when you're hitting hurdles. But I always say the hurdles are there to make you refocus, to maybe figure out a different way. Like you're doing the right thing, but you need to go about it slightly differently. Maybe you need to focus a little more on a little more detail before it's going to be ready to come fully to fruition. So just know that if there is something that's calling you, even if it's not launching you to the place that you need it to be at the moment, that doesn't mean it's the wrong path. It may just mean you need to work a little harder, find the workaround, figure it out. But if you know that's what you're meant to be doing, you have to keep going. The second card is spend less time worrying about your appearance. You are enough. We all have an inner critic within us, and we all compare ourselves to other people around us, whether it be people we know personally, whether it be people online, people we see in the magazines and on TV. And we all think there's something wrong with us. There was a number of years ago, I was with some girlfriends of mine. We were at a dance studio. We had the keys and we were allowed to be there. And so we weren't there for a class like we normally were. We were just in there having a great time. We were training different things and we were helping each other with it. And then at one point, we put on some music and we all set up cameras and we just danced. That was all we did. It was freestyle. There was no choreography. There was no anything. And when we watched the videos back, I was watching I was watching both the other girls. One of them had taken belly dancing classes at some point. And so when she dances all the way to the ends of her fingertips. So the way she finishes those dance moves is so beautiful. And when we would be in class together, I would often just stand there and watch her dance because she was so beautiful. And then the other girl is this powerhouse who is so stupidly strong. And then I'm looking at myself in the background of this video thinking, I can't dance like them. And I'm having this internal dialogue going on in my head. What happened at the end of it when we finished watching these videos, one of the girls said, I wish I could move like you, Nat. You move like liquid. It's just so beautiful. And I just don't have that. And I looked at her and went, are you kidding me? You can physically do things that I cannot do. I can't even, I dream of doing it, but it's just, that is not the way my body is built. And then the other one's jumping in and saying, I want to be like both of you for different reasons. And we ended up sitting there laughing for a while afterwards going, this is ridiculous. We're different. We're not going to be the same. And that's what makes this incredibly beautiful. And we have to remember that in life. We spend so long or so much time criticizing ourselves and thinking that we're not good enough because we're not like that other person that we're looking at or we're viewing. And we have to take a moment to realize our strengths and the beauty within us and externally and appreciate what we have. And the moment we start to embrace who we are, what we have, and even the things that we don't have, it's all of that that makes us the individual. But the moment you accept who you are and embrace it and run with it, that's when everything starts coming together, especially if you're trusting the path that you're on. Because you came here for a very specific reason. You set goals for yourself in this life before you ever came here, for your soul to grow, for your soul lessons, and also for the people around you. And the longer you spend trying to be somebody else, you're deviating off that path. At the moment you embrace who you are and the journey and the pull of where it is you're meant to be and you run with it, that's when everything starts to come together because you're doing what you were meant to do. And you don't want to be a sheep. You want to be a leader in your own way. And people are attracted to who you are. And sometimes if we have been living a version of our life that is a lie, and a lie in the sense of we're trying to keep up with other people or we are trying to be something that we are not, we attract the wrong people and the wrong energies into our life. And so when we start to embrace our authenticity and appreciate the beauty that we all carry, some of those people may fall away. And I realize that can be incredibly scary, but it's also the most liberating feeling ever because one, it's exhausting pretending to be somebody that you're not. It's exhausting comparing yourself to somebody else all the time. And the moment you stop all of that, life becomes easier. Your burden is lighter. And losing people that are in your life for the wrong reasons, while it can be difficult because you might care about these people or it might be hurtful how they leave, because often if you're not behaving in a certain way for how they want, people can turn on you. But at the same time, when the right people come in, it makes all of that worthwhile. And you have to accept the people that leave as a result because they served their purpose in your life, whether that be because it was a lesson they were teaching you or something else. Um, it was time for them to go. Your journey together was over. But you have to remember that you are enough. You've always been enough, but it's time for you to remember that and embrace it. And the next card is, I promise you, it does get better. So if you're struggling with all of this, I while I was just talking with the other card, I'm thinking it was about appearance and, you are enough. And why am I saying all these things? It's because it does get better. It gets better the moment you embrace who you are and I know I'm saying the same thing, but you need to trust it. You have to go with it. The other thing is it gets easier and it gets better when you are on the path you're meant to be on. Life isn't so difficult. I know this is such a cliche. When you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And it's true. And it doesn't mean that there aren't days where you're tired and think, oh, I'd like to do nothing today. You still have those days. But work isn't a drag. You don't dread doing it. You wake up excited about what it is you're chasing. And maybe it's about a hobby. Maybe it's wanting to dance. Maybe it's, I don't know, pursuing singing. And it's something as simple as going in and taking lessons. And that's what feeds your soul. But you have to go forth and do it. There's somebody in my life who has always wanted to do ballroom dancing, and they were feeling very self-conscious about going in and doing classes. And, what if I can't do it and I'm awkward and I'm this and what if I screw up? And everybody has to begin somewhere. When I started dancing, I had to go into a class. Not, all of my friends were saying that they wanted to come and do the class with me. And then every time I was ready to book in, they would say, no, I'm not ready. Let's just wait. So in the end, I booked in on my own and I walked into a class where everybody else that had booked in was in pairs because they were there for each other's moral support. And it was intimidating. But I went in and I did what I needed to do. I ended up making some lifelong friends. Some of these people are still in my life today, which I'm so grateful for because we're coming up to 20 years. I mean, I'm showing my age here. But this other person built up the courage, went to the class. They are now working with the instructor in helping to teach the class. They just needed to take that step and they are thoroughly enjoying their life right now. So this is why it's so important to embrace who you are as an individual and let the whole world see. One of my favorite sayings in the past 6 months is let your freak flag fly. I have to say it slowly because otherwise I get tongue tied. But I genuinely mean that. The weirder, the better. It's great. You'll find the other weirdos that match your energy. So the next card is learn to say no, avoid clutter, slow down and quiet your mind. I feel like if you've picked pile number one, your mind is probably racing and you're probably going through all this stuff in your mind and questioning everything. And it's time to stop and take a breath and figure out what path it is you're meant to be on. Figure out what it is you're worrying about and what is keeping you up. And especially if you're fixated on the fact that everything's crap right now, you need to stop and if people are pushing you in a direction that doesn't work for you, it's okay to say no. It is okay to set those boundaries and say, this doesn't work for me. This is what I need. And then you can establish new boundaries. And if they love you and they respect you, they will respect those boundaries. If it means that your relationship comes to a close, that's totally fine as well. But you need to be able to say no. The whole thing about clutter, a space that is clean and tidy and decluttered makes all the difference. It allows your mind to function in a much better way. So this is why it's important to have that space around you clean. And you know what? If that's an issue for you, maybe the slowing down is getting your life in order. And by doing it physically, you'll find that mentally things start falling into place as well. And then the final card from this deck is it's okay to be different. Okay, don't try so hard to fit in. Literally everything I was just saying. So I don't need to expand any more on that. I've already said it. Absolutely, 100%. There's a very clear message with this reading. So then we're moving on to the butterfly effect. And I thought I'd pulled 3. It turns out 4. I will say for all of these piles, cards were flying out in every direction as I was pulling them. So we get what we get. So from the butterfly effect deck, the first card is delusions. You can stay holed up in your mind, wishing, waiting, and wanting, or you can get up and make changes. Don't get lost in fantasy world when you can create a reality that is so much better. So once again, that is everything that I have already said. So take that as confirmation that that is the point of this reading. The next card is intuition. Your intuition is your superpower. You are harnessing your psychic abilities and learning to trust that your inner voice to guide the decisions that you make. So that moment where it says slow down and quiet your mind, part of it is tuning into this, listening to your intuition, listening to what you're being told or what you're being guided to do. And we all have this within us. We spend so long or so much time looking to others to give us clarity, to give us the answers and to tell us the things that we need to know or want to know, when you have the answers within you. But it's a matter of almost detaching from the matrix, because there's so much noise and there's so much energy coming at us constantly that we very rarely can sit on our own without that noise coming at us. And it's time to do that, because you need to tune in to get to this point where you're able to make the changes and let go of what you need to let go of. The third card is memories. You may be feeling a bit nostalgic and likely triggered, but know that while you can't go back in time and change the past, you can always change the way that you think about it. I always love this card because to me it reminds me to go back, and one of the big things that always comes up with this card for me is we look at relationships that have fallen apart for us, whether they be romantic or friendship or anything like that. And we always think, that person's a terrible person. They screwed us over. They did something awful. They said something awful. What we don't always take into account when our feelings are hurt and when we're feeling affected in this sort of way is that that person may have been going through something that we have no concept about. And sometimes that affects their decision making. Other times it's as simple as our time together was just done. It was just done. And it's hurtful because we never want certain people to leave our lives, or we're not expecting certain people to leave our lives. But that doesn't mean that the relationship that we had prior to it ending was fake or a lie. What it means is we shared these incredible moments and it's time to move forward. And we can carry a lot of anger We can sometimes carry a lot of guilt. We can carry so many emotions with us when we move away from these relationships and these things in our past. And we carry that. And if we think about it, or if their name is brought up, it does trigger a whole lot of things. And this is what we have to let go of. That's baggage that we are carrying. And sometimes in life, we're lucky enough to get closure. We run into somebody or they reach out and they share what was going on for them, and then it puts everything into perspective and it changes how we look at it. But we're not always given that gift, which can be incredibly difficult. But to sit in a place of anger or sit in a place of constant hurt when we look back, we're punishing ourselves. So when we're taking these moments of quiet reflection, it's important to try and look at those memories that are triggering us through a different lens. And maybe you won't get the answers, but maybe you'll find a place where you can say, I didn't think about all of these different things. I've only looked at it from my perspective. So that can free you from a lot of stuff. And maybe you might look back and realize that you were the one changing and that was why they needed to be left behind. So just sit with that. And the fourth card that jumped out, you will feel empowered. So the card is talent. You will feel empowered to share a unique talent that comes easily to you, one that will give you an endless flow of creativity, sense of peace, and freedom. So that brings me back to this first card. There's a path you're meant to be on and you need to trust it. There is something that's coming through right now that you're being called to do. So I feel like if you listen to what is coming through, if you take the time to sit quietly, declutter the space around you, declutter your mind, and really step into your power, what's in front of you can be absolutely incredible. Now, keep in mind through all of this, the energy of March is going to be really intense astrologically. If you're following the Leo King or Evan Nathaniel Grimm or Alex Skiles, any of these people, they've been talking about the energies that are building. Where I think we're in it now, a very short period of time of all the planets direct before we have a whole bunch go retrograde once again. We've got Venus and Mercury coming up and they're going to be huge retrogrades. So know that there is a lot of transition going on just in on the planet at the moment. The energies are in transition. And so it's a perfect time for you to make any shifts that you need to make, but you need to be brave enough to tap into all of that. And I have complete faith that you will. So the final deck, where I just pulled one card for each pile, is the Inner Child Oracle. I just feel like this month there is going to be a focus on healing because that's what so many of us all need. So the the card that came up is Practice Freedom, Release the Weight of Judgment. So that brings us back to this second card. You know, I kept talking about the weight that we're carrying, the weight that we're carrying. And this is talking about releasing the weight. And this is an eagle soaring. And it looks like it's soaring literally through the Milky Way. And ultimately, that's what life can be. But you have to free yourself, and nobody else can do it for you. So for those of you that picked pile number one, I hope that this resonated for you, and we will move on to pile number two. So now we are moving on to pile number two, which is my Labradorite owl. I always just want one more flash of those beautiful colors and the fire in the belly. Okay, so card number one, you're shedding energies that no longer match your frequency. There is a lot of this going on at the moment. I feel that as this awakening is happening on the planet, and as people are growing and ascending energetically, if people don't match your energies and your frequency, they drop away. And it's because they're not able to get to where you are. When you're operating at a particular frequency, and if it's higher than everybody else, and you come into a space or come into contact with people that aren't vibrating at that same energy, you don't drop your energy down to meet them. They have to come up to match your frequency. So if you're shedding people, just know that that is part of the ascension process and that it's happening in a way that it's meant to be happening. And you have to trust it regardless of how painful it is if you're shedding people that you care about. I know there were people in my life that helped me get through some really rough times, but at the same time, when I started outgrowing them because I was working on healing myself through that journey, they started getting funny with me because I wanted different things to where we had been sort of sitting. And it was really sad to me that there was this breakdown in the friendship. And it wasn't that there was a lack of love or a lack of care, but they were staying in the same space. I was growing, I was ascending and moving forward. And so I needed to release them so that one, they could stay on their path and their journey and do what they needed to do while I needed to focus on me and what I needed to do. And so I moved forward and moved on with different sets of people. And that was what needed to happen for everybody involved. The next card is spend more time on your spiritual growth. Sorry, I'm reading back to front when I'm looking through the reflection of the camera. Again, confirmation of what I just said. I didn't know why I needed to tell that story, but that was why. The friend that I was thinking of, I was going through, when I was going through my divorce, there was a little bit of partying and drinking and things like that. And I needed that for a brief moment because it was an escape and it's difficult. And when I was going through the divorce, I was a single adult for the very first time in my life. But very quickly, I started focusing on my spiritual growth and bettering myself. And it's not to say there was anything wrong with any of the people I was spending time with, but they wanted to stay in that space of partying and doing all of that. And I had outgrown that. And I know that they were upset with me for moving on, but it was just where I needed to be. And you need to be okay with shedding all of that and remember that it is for your highest good and for your own growth. The next card is you're on a journey of discovering your life's purpose. So there is so much in flux at the moment in terms of there is so much change going on. And we talked about this on Gemini Rising with Amanda Ellis, that there is a spiritual awakening. It is a slow process in terms of the collective, but it is gaining momentum. And there are a lot of people on the planet at the moment that are re-examining their lives. And as they're getting in touch with their higher selves and as they're doing this spiritual work, they're realizing what it is they're actually meant to be doing and making those shifts in life. And I feel like this is exactly why those of you that picked pile number 2 have picked it, because it's confirmation of this journey that you're on. The next card is own your time and give it meaning. Don't let it pass you by. When I was a really young girl, I remember I spent a lot of time wishing my life away, and not saying I wish it was over, but I would sit there and rather than be present in a moment, I would sit there and think, oh, I can't wait for this to happen. And it might be something that was happening that weekend, the following week, or the following month. But I was always wishing to be in that moment versus being present. And I don't know if it was a death, something happened, and I realized how life can change in an absolute instant. And everything that you love, it must have been a death, can be taken from you. And I know exactly whose death it was. It was my mother's death. And I made a promise to myself in that moment that I would never wish my life away again. And I work very hard to stay present in the present moment. And if it's something that is uncomfortable or painful, I don't wish it away. I just tell myself this too shall pass. But I honor the time that I have. And I always try to be present in that moment with whatever feeling I'm going through or feeling I'm feeling. I try to be present with the people that I'm there with and really make the most of it. If you think about time as we know it on this earth, and you think about, let's say we all live to 80 years, we're just averaging things out. You have 80 years on this planet. That's not really that much time. Because if you look back, and especially as we get older, we look back and go, how am I this age? Oh my gosh. And I feel like I've lived 10 different lifetimes by the time I've gotten to this point in my life. At the same time, it feels like it's all gone in an instant. So make sure that you are focusing on being present where you are with the people that you are with, and honor the time that you've been given on this earth, because there are souls lining up waiting to come in, and you're one of the ones that's already here. So you have to honor that. And okay, so this is a theme in the readings today. Don't compare your life to others. Your journey is your own. So this is a theme that's coming up. I think it must be playing on the minds of the collective that we're always comparing ourselves to somebody else. Social media makes it so much worse, because back in the day when there were just tabloids and things like that, we would look at celebrities, we'd hold them in a high regard and put them on a pedestal. And, you know, we would want to live this life that we knew nothing about. And then social media came in. And so we have more access to celebrities, if that's where your focus is. But we see these influencers and these people that have carved out careers for themselves online, whether it be YouTube or Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And if we are trying to carve out our own path, we often look at people that are doing similar things and we compare ourselves to them. Look at how successful they are. Why don't I have that many followers? Why don't I have that engagement? That is part of the block that you are dealing with in this moment. So what you need to do is go inwards and quiet your mind and cut any attachments that you have to other people, because that's their journey and they're doing their own thing. They're learning their own lessons and all of that is going on for them. You are on your own journey. And once you get to a point where you embrace who you are and what you're meant to be doing and trust that and stay on that path, that's when success will come in. And maybe in this life, you're not meant to have 5 million followers. Maybe you're only meant to have 10,000. Maybe you're only meant to have 500, but you're affecting those 500 people. Maybe it's not about being famous or on social media or anything like that. Maybe it's about being a mum and having a family. And again, you're looking at the people around you. They've got this. I don't have this. That's fine. Maybe that's not meant for you. When I got married when I was 22, I thought I would have children by the time I was 30. We are well past that, and that hasn't happened. Would I like to have children? Sure. But I'm not focused on the fact that other people in my life have children and that I don't, because I'm focused on doing what's right for me. When I look back into my past, there is nobody in my past that I think, oh, I wish I'd had children with them. So therefore, I know I've made the right decision. This whole thing about time, you know, oh my gosh, the biological clock, this is what's going on. It's fine. If something's meant to happen for you, it will happen exactly when it's meant to. And we need to let go of all of that and be present. And that's when life starts to flow. We're the ones creating our own blockages. Again, that's a message that keeps coming up. I think it came up in the weekly oracle reading. It's coming up again. So we'll move on to the butterfly effect cards. And the first card out is support. Someone will come into your life to offer their support and stimulate your personal growth. Their act of kindness will help you see and believe the magic within you. So clearly, there's somebody in the physical world that is coming in to help you on this journey and figure out what it is you're meant to be doing. Or maybe you've already figured it out, but they will help you take those steps to get there. But they're going to be kind. This is going to be someone that's very special for you and helpful in the growth that is coming for you. The next card is healing. You're healing your body by releasing any trapped emotions and giving yourself enough time to understand the lessons your pain is trying to teach you. One of the biggest mistakes that is made in this life is we're always looking for a quick fix. We're looking for a way for the pain to be taken away without us having to feel it or go through it. And you're going through a moment of healing at the moment. And the only way to get to the other side is to go through it. And you need to embrace what comes up. If it's pain, feel the pain. If it's anger or hurt and you need to cry, do all of that. Let all of it go and work your way through it, because there are lessons in it. It will fundamentally change who you are on the other side, but the change is for the better, providing you don't allow any of it to make you bitter and closed off to the world. A Gemini Rising episode that Anne and I did a couple of weeks ago with an ex-Navy SEAL, Christopher Maher, we focused on healing and releasing trauma. And he has a book, and it was such a fantastic conversation. So if that's something that you're needing to work on, I would suggest you go and maybe watch that episode. It might give you a place to start. If you need help moving through it, maybe the person coming in will give you the support that you need to do that work. But by feeling it and moving through to the other side, whatever it is you're healing from, will be the most transformative experience that you can go through. And then the final card from the Butterfly Effect deck is forgiveness. You're finally getting over something or someone, and though it wasn't easy, you will ultimately forgive and move on peacefully to set you free. So that's a perfect follow on from the healing card, because when you do heal, you do learn to forgive. And forgiveness is one of the best things that we can do in this life. And I realize that some people talk about their past experiences and the hurt and everything that they're going through, and they carry a lot of anger within them. And, I hate them. I don't know. They don't deserve my forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about us. It's about releasing yourself from carrying all of those emotions. So I feel like this is all good. It's very much about leveling up, but it's something that you're very capable of doing, and you're going to have that support to get through the other side. And the final deck, where I just pulled one card for each of the piles, is the Inner Child Oracle. And your card is be present, find clarity in the moment. So this comes back to time, being present in the moment that is happening right now, not being stuck in the past, which can bring up a whole range of emotions because we're focused on something that happened a long time ago and that we can't change it. If you're looking into the future and you're thinking about everything going on with that, it brings up anxiety, and because we're creating scenarios in our head that we don't even know if any of it will happen or if any of it is true. But when you are present in the moment and letting things unfold in a very natural way, you are going to have a much better quality of life. So this is what you need to focus on this month. Being present. This whole thing around time is something that you really need to focus on. So I hope that helps all of you who picked pile number 2, and we will move on to pile number 3. Okay, and now we are moving on to pile number 3, which is our clear quartz. Okay, so card number one. There's still time to change the road you're on. It's never too late. So if you're chugging along and you are feeling like things are not working and it's feeling at a soul level like you are in the wrong place, this is not the life you were meant to have. And you you need to realize that you can shift. Free will is something that exists in this world. Before we come to this earth, we plan what our soul mission, what it is we're going to be doing, and what it is we're going to be working on. And we come down here to execute exactly what we planned. When sometimes as children, there are memories about what happened when we were on the other side, but for the most part, those memories are wiped clear. And then we go through this life and we're navigating everything that's put in front of us, not remembering, not consciously remembering that that this is everything that we signed up for. And there's always a joke amongst myself and my sister and a whole bunch of friends when we're having a really hard time and we're speaking to each other, we'll just remind each other and say, you signed up for this. And then we always question whether we actually did. Maybe there was a mix up and this isn't the life that we signed up for. But the reality is, sometimes as souls, we don't always complete our soul mission because there is free will. And because of that free will, we can end up on the wrong path, decide not to learn our lessons, and then we get to come back and repeat it and do it again until we actually learn what it is we're meant to be learning. But if you are sitting there and you know that where you are is not where you're meant to be, maybe you're in the wrong relationship, maybe it's the wrong job, maybe it's a dynamic with your family, maybe you're living in a place that doesn't work for you. Whatever it is, you have the power to shift what is going on right now. And you should make that shift. The next card is to rise, you must let go of fear. So it's fear that's holding you back. It's scary to make shifts where you don't know what the outcome is going to be, or there is, possible fallout from switching paths, leaving a relationship. I got married very young and I loved my ex-husband very, very much. And I'm so grateful that I was able to have a great love that early in life and somebody that helped me through a lot of things in my life after a childhood that wasn't the easiest. And yet the marriage was not right. And I remember when we were talking about ending it, and I said to him, neither of us have cheated. Nothing really bad has happened. And we could stay together and we could pop out, or I would be the one popping them out, but pop out 2 or 3 kids and we would hit 40. And I said, and by then we would hate each other. And I love you enough that I don't want to hate you. And that was how we ended it. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done because I had been with him from the age of 15. So I'd never been a single adult. There were a lot of people in my life at the time that, if asked, would have said that I was not capable of surviving on my own. I wouldn't be able to pay the bills, even though I was working and, doing what I needed to do. But, she'll never survive on her own. She can't do it without him. And for a while, I let that noise get into my head. The reality is, when that relationship ended and we went our separate ways, I was thriving. And that's got nothing to do with him. It's got nothing against him. It has everything to do with me. I had to push through the fear of leaving behind what I knew, what was comfortable, to step into what I needed to be and where I needed to be going. So letting go of fear, I understand how difficult that is. But when you are able to face fear and step through it and move through it, it is one of the most freeing things you'll ever do. And once you do it once, the next time you hit that roadblock of fear, sort of sitting in front of you and blocking your path, you'll remember that you've done this once and you got through it and everything was amazing. And so you'll do it again. And it becomes easier. It doesn't mean that those moments of fear don't come in, but they're not crippling in the way that they are if you give into it every time because you're giving it power. These cards are blowing my mind today. Okay, new chapters require a new version of you. So it's time for you to level up. It's time for you to make the decisions that you need to get to where it is you're meant to be, and honestly where your soul desires to go. You won't always feel alone. You're attracting your soul tribe. I've talked about this in the other readings. Whenever we make a shift, whenever our spiritual growth blooms, we tend to leave people behind us. And it's not because there is a lack of love for those people. It's just that we are not meant to be on this path together anymore. People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And maybe that season is over. Maybe that reason has played out. And there are people that we're lucky enough to have with us for a lifetime. But every time you let go of people, new people come in. A story that I have told once before, after my marriage broke down, I was in a horribly abusive relationship. And this guy, how I ever ended up there, I don't know, but I did. It was a very big lesson for me. But I remember I looked at the state of my life at one point as a relationship was ending and thinking, how did I get here? And I remember my mum used to say when we were kids and we would bring friends around that she really didn't like. And she would say, if you lie with dogs, you get fleas. And I looked at the state of my life from what it had been when I was married to where it was at that moment in time and thought, I've really screwed up. And I could just hear my mum's voice in my head. And she had already passed, so she couldn't talk to me in the physical. And then it was probably about 6 months later, 3 months later, I was sitting around with a newer friend that I had made, and we would often go out on a Sunday to listen to his brother, who is a musician. He would play at these different venues. And this one particular day, we were sitting around. It was a gorgeous spring day, and we were listening to music, and I was sitting with all these legends of Australian music. And I sat there, and in my head again, I heard, you lie with dogs, you get fleas. And I thought, the moment I let this man go and everything that came with him go, my life blossomed in a way that I couldn't have imagined. Now, the friend that I was there with, he and I are still in contact with each other, but we're not in each other's lives like we were for that particular period of time because we were both going through something. All of those musicians, I don't have any contact with anymore, but I was surrounded suddenly by people that inspired me, that were in a creative field. I'm definitely not a musician, but they were in the entertainment industry. They were in a creative field, and it fueled the fire for me to keep going. So you have to trust that even if you're feeling alone in this moment, when you embrace where it is you're going and the journey that you're on, the right people will come in and they will inspire you. You'll find lifelong friends, and maybe you'll find a bunch of them that are there just for the next season. And that's okay as well. It will help you get to where it is you need to be at next and keep your journey going. The next card is be careful who and what you surround yourself with. Lie with dogs, you get fleas. So I don't think I need to say any more with that one. That to me is confirmation of what I was just telling you and the story that I just told. So moving on. Oh, sorry. My ear is ringing so loudly I can't even hear myself. Okay, thank you. So the next card is angelic help. So we're on the butterfly effect cards. Your angels are relieving you of your burdens. You'll notice you'll begin to feel lighter, your worries and fears fading away, and embracing your own inner breakthrough. So you have the other side supporting you. Even if you're feeling alone, you aren't. And you'll have people coming in the physical But in these moments in between where you're making the decision to shift paths and where you're fighting the desire to sort of give in to the fear or to push through, you're being guided and supported on the other side. And like I said, the ringing in the ears, that was intense. I haven't had it that loud in a little while. So they are definitely there. The next card is Miracle. A miracle is coming your way and it's just around the corner. So don't lose hope. Trust that all is unfolding beautifully in your life without delays. So when you're trusting the call that is coming through, what's on the other side is going, pardon me, is going to feel like a miracle. That day when I was sitting around talking to these musicians and listening to great music and just feeling carefree and light for the first time in a couple of years, that felt like a miracle for me. Social media existed, it was in a different phase of its existence at the time. But none of those moments did I share on social media. And honestly, if I was in it now, I wouldn't be sharing it again. They were incredible for me. And there was so many epiphanies and light bulbs going off in my head. And honestly, at that moment, if that was as good as life got, I would have been thrilled with that because I was in such a better space. But once you start embracing the journey and the growth and being able to see the signs and trust the pull of your soul when it's directing you into a particular direction or place, you start to listen. And the miracle is almost the growth and the journey that you're on. So embrace all of that. And the final card from the butterfly effect is you're entering a period of happiness and leaving dark times behind you, taking steps into a new chapter where happiness begins and peace is restored. So again, confirmation of everything that I just said. So I don't know why I have a frog in my throat today. So the final card comes from the Inner Child Oracle. I think I said this in the other readings. I don't think I said it at the beginning, but I feel like March, with all the wild energies that we're going to be dealing with astrologically, that we need to focus on healing. And if you haven't watched any of the other decks, because you were only attracted to the clear quartz, which is totally fine, you'll notice there's not always a theme. Often the readings are completely different, but there is a very big theme of growth that has gone throughout these readings. So I just felt that we needed to focus on healing before we started, hence the inner child. So your message with this card is, it is time to celebrate. Cultivate an air of celebration today. So I feel like if you haven't already made the decision to switch paths or to take this big leap and go through the fear, you're about to. And even just taking that step, that in itself is enough to celebrate, because it's a big and scary thing stepping through that fear. I'm sure there are more times than I can count where I've had to face fear and go, do I want to do this? But all of the biggest moments in my life and all the biggest changes, I've had to step through massive amounts of fear, leaving my marriage, moving out of my childhood home when I think I was 16, 15 or 16 or something. That was terrifying, but I knew that staying where I was going to be very detrimental to me physically, mentally, emotionally. So I needed to get out of there. Moving over to the US, I had a full career in Australia. I had a home and I had plenty of friends that I had spent years sort of growing this circle around me, and taking a risk and going to a country where at that point I knew a handful of people, but they weren't necessarily the closest people to me. They were people that I knew over here, and I had to take the risk. Do I risk everything I've ever worked for, walk away from all my regular modeling clients, and just step into this new life? And there were moments where I went, maybe I should just stay. coming over here was one of the greatest things I could have done for myself. The people that I've met, the work that I have done have been the most incredible gift. And I say that just hopefully to inspire you that as scary as it seems, if there is that tug that is pulling you and telling you to go in that direction, that you should listen to it. Now, fear, if you're in a situation and you're walking down a dark street and your intuition is going, there is something wrong, there is something wrong, that you have to listen to. That's fear that serves you well. But fear that wants to stop you from doing the work that you need to do, from walking the path that you need to walk, the fear of stepping into a relationship or out of a relationship, that's the fear that we don't want to listen to. So I hope this helps. As I say with every reading, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Not every reading is for every person. March is going to be intense, but I think that it can be intense in a really great way if we all embrace what's coming in our direction and run with it and use it to the our advantage, versus giving in to fear, giving in to pressure from people around us. This is our journey. This is our life. So claim it, own it, stand strong on your path, and trust the direction that you're moving in. I will put the links for the 2 Gemini Rising episodes that I mentioned, the one with Amanda Ellis, the one with Christopher Maher. I'll have that in the comments if that's something that you want to explore. And I will see you all Monday for the weekly Oracle Wisdom.